Next up on Future Rock, the Bings. The Bings are a modern pop quartet from Woodland Hills who banded together last fall and have been rattling the rafters at dance halls all over Southern California.
The grit that defined Hollywood's Sunset Strip in the 80s is the stuff of legend. But just over the hills in the San Fernando Valley, home to shopping malls and valley girls, something else was happening. Theirs was the sound of suburban angst and youthful defiance. Edgy yet melodic, rebellious yet relatable, bridging two scenes that seemed worlds apart. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the Bings.
At the time I was living off Mulholland Drive with my family. And so it was just a real easy shoot down to Sunset Boulevard and then down to Tower Records, the Strip. And so I used to shop there all the time. And one day I'm looking at the magazine rack and they have this thing called Who Put the Bomb? They had pictures of the Beatles on the front and the Stones and stuff. And going, this is amazing. I didn't know there was anybody doing that kind of stuff. I read the magazine and it was like National Geographic. It was sacrilege to destroy it. After a couple of years, they made an announcement that they're going to open up a record outlet. So I was in Bomp one day and, buying some oldies, and Susie was at the counter and she goes, Dave, let me turn you on to an album I think you're going to like. It was Blondie's first album. Anything they recommended, I said, sure, lay it on me. So I took it home and loved it.
Yeah, we were just kids from the San Fernando Valley. The early music that I liked, all the great bands, the Beatles and Beach Boys and Dave Clark Five, the Byrds, Buckingham's, all that melodic stuff from the 60s, all the kind of sunshiny pop type music.
I listened to a lot of oldies radio, which would even include the early Beatles. And I also was a huge fan of the Babies.
Paul and I were into Black Sabbath and Aerosmith and, Al Di Meola. So it was a good kind of mix.
And we just had been in several bands.
There's another band called Sable, and they were offered the house band with a lot of Kazari's on Sunset Strip.
Through some of those relationships with guitarists that moved around, Mark ended up meeting Dave.
And Dave, I met him. He had been doing some recording over at Warner Brothers with Paul, our drummer.
Paul and Dave were in a band called Vision. I was in Flight. We used to play at this ice rink. I used to play with gloves on. It was so cold.
We got Don Salmon. He was in another band at the time, and we kind of recruited him.
I took one look at Don and was, ooh, he's pretty.
I think I got kicked out of my other band.
I think initially we were going to be called The Rings. And I think there was a band somewhere that also we saw an album by a band called The Rings. So then we had already made this big backdrop. So we said, well, what are we going to do? So I think we just changed the one letter. Oh, the Bings, that sounds fun.
The music scene had started to change. As the early wave of punk began to subside, a new sound was taking hold on the Strip.
When the Bings started out, it was kind of like the term new wave. There was this new type of music kind of coming on in the late 70s.
Like, wow, what music is this? Yeah, we did Plimsolls.
The Plimsolls.
We go to the Plimsolls. We loved to go see them. The Knack was playing all the time.
But when it came to the Bings, the lines were a little blurrier. They didn't fit neatly into any one genre, and no one was really using the term powerpop at the time.
I don't remember us calling ourselves powerpop.
We were playing Elvis Costello and The Clash. Nobody was doing that stuff back then.
People called us, we were like New Wave Beach Boys.
Please, please, please take a rub our hands. We've been playing tonight as hard as we can. Please, 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 it's all in the chance. Why in the world won't someone send her a man?
It wasn't until later that the powerpop label stuck. Back then, they were simply making the music that just felt right. As if destined from the start, Susie Shaw hired Dave at Bump. It was the perfect fit, a job at the legendary record store and label that had shaped his musical world.
And he was involved, so he really was ahead of the time when of knowing, because the Ramones and Blondie and all this stuff was coming. And so we started doing those with the Bing songs, and we were playing around. It's like a lot of the kids didn't even know it. They thought we were a punk set.
We wanted to promote this music. We would print up a whole bunch of copies of our song list. So okay guys, here's the song, here's the band who originally did it, go out and find it.
Even as they brought fresh sounds to the stage, the crowd wasn't always ready for it.
Oh, we don't do Stairway to Heaven, but we have this song called Radio. It's just about like Stairway to Heaven. I don't think you're going to like that. We'd have some of our songs mixed in, but we'd sprinkle it in so they weren't noticing that, a third of our 3-hour show was us.
We had played a few shows like at the Troubadour and a couple of clubs downtown, which was really fun.
Madam Wong's in Chinatown, which is where we played. It was probably one of the raunchiest places we ever played. Then I started writing, which I hadn't really done. I'd written 3 songs maybe in my life, and back in the 70s. I wanted to come up with something like what I loved at Pop. I was really into the Ramones and Generation X, and so in the month of May 1980, I knocked off 7 songs that are on the album.
Like bring pieces and give them to Dave, and he would go home and he would come back and this and that, move things around, and he would come up to visit our brother Guy when he was going to college and kind of getting established when he had his first studio. So we would come up and it was like, oh, let's record a song. I've got a song. Oh, hi brother. Oh, can we go into the studio?
Our idea was if we could get 2 songs pretty well produced, then we could try to shop them around and put out our own record. We pressed, I think there was 1,000 of them. And so we'd do shows, and then that would be, we'd play our original songs and we'd try to sell them. I think we sold them for like $1 a piece at the gigs.
The music was modern, the words surprisingly innocent, but who were they singing about?
Granny and Jed were always trying to get her married off. She's already 14 and not married.
That's just the guitar player, man.
And then we had my younger brother, Quint, he joined the band.
So I came home and just immediately went out and, bought a Rickenbacker and a big Ampeg amp.
There was a time where we're like, this could be something,
I remember going to a dinner meeting with Batman, Adam West. And he was going to invest in this new little record label that was interested in signing us.
He didn't trust Adam's business partner. He showed himself to be unscrupulous.
We didn't really know what we were doing. We were not in it to play LA clubs and get noticed. We were like a working band. I wasn't looking at it as, we're going to make it big or something like that.
Every band hits bumps along the road. This one would leave its mark.
We ended up being told that one of our members wasn't good enough to record. What am I going to do? Let him find out that, we signed a deal and next thing you know, he's being Pete bested?
It's a family, you're going to have issues. And I thought about quitting the band because we were having problems, and then I thought, what if they make it and I quit? I'd that'd be the worst thing ever.
Maybe I would just make a clean break, and that's what I did. And another member quit along with him.
Paul and Don, those 2 left.
Even with new drummer Chris Rallis, the spark was gone, and the Bings just quietly unraveled.
It wasn't like a big fight where the band breaks up. Kind of just stopped doing it just because nothing had happened.
My wife and I went to church one night, and we came back, and all the equipment had been stolen out of my garage. And that was it. That was the end of the band.
I was living here in Utah, or Mark would come up to visit, and we would go, let's record a Bing song.
In 2020, during the lockdown, way in the back of this cabinet, I pulled the drawer out and I see these two boxes back there. I pull them out, and these are the 16-track masters of these recording sessions.
Imagine the tapes in the back of the cabinet for 40 years. Hey, open the door! Let us out!
If we were going to let the world hear it, we had to send it, go back to square one. So we took the approach that this was a restoration, not a new thing.
And then he found a studio in Long Beach, Thin Brown Line, I think is what it was called. He said if they're salvageable, they could do it.
He used an Elvis Costello tune and then the original single as the kind of the EQ model to shape everything. So that's why we were kind of able to make it sound like it was the 1980s, but it doesn't sound like the 1980s.
This is a time capsule of 1981 and 1982.
When he sent me that first CD, I was literally blown away. I called the drummer and he had listened to it. And he says, "Were we that good?"
It isn't a new album, but it's not an old album either. It's some weird in-between thing. It's a debut album that came out 40 years later.
Everybody knows that you're just a child.
David Bash was like, this is exactly the type of stuff that we like to have.
I'm in, that sounds fun.
Some of the friends from high school is like, well, we don't go downtown LA anymore. It's like, what?
We debated for a while whether to do it or not, and it was just like, look, we just got to finish this story. Don's son played drums. A third guitar was our old cover band in high school, Sedley Jensen. He was able to play guitar, and it was a fun reunion.
Though unable to perform that night, Dave could still feel the chemistry, that spark that brought them together 40 years earlier.
It was great. I really think they outdid themselves tonight.
I guess everybody finds their place, and that's the magic of a band, where you get musicians coming together that create something unique that you can't do by yourself. And that's the fun of it.
Don't stop dancing!
It's a pretty bizarre story.
There were hundreds of bands. They just did their little thing and then got a regular job. But their little thing was pretty cool.
Thinking back, I can't remember snow like we had this December. Not long ago, it was green outside. Today it's white all over. Wake the neighbors and come on over.